In episode number 434 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover the new HBO Max theatrical hybrid model.
We also have Patty Jenkin's thoughts on the Josstice League.
As voted on by you, we discuss the Arkhamaniacs graphic novel today.
All of this and so much more on today's show.
Hello and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I am Guy Daniel.
And I am Emperor Kelli.
For those of you new to the show, the way we format it is first we go through some news. We head into our Patreon shoutouts of the week, which are thank yous to those of you who make the show possible. Go into our comic book highlight, and finally the Brokehead block, which is what Kelli and I have been doing this week.
But our first bit of news comes from the comic book side. Marvel Comics executive editor Tom Brevoort said that Marvel will go through a rebirth after the Enter the Phoenix arc in 2021.
We don't currently subscribe to any, maybe just the Ultraman comic book right now, and I'll get a couple of covers here and there, but I know a lot of you do end up buying from all companies, including Marvel Comics, and I do feel that it is important to at least discuss this rebirth that they're talking about, especially on my end, since I do work in the comic industry as a comic shop manager, and I know that this is what they're doing another set of number ones, or what does the rebirth mean? But it's Marvel Comics. They do it every 6 months. There's a new number one for every single title, it seems like.
Yeah, I definitely don't think this is anything unexpected, especially with DC doing that kind of small reboot that they're doing. This was definitely expected, and I am not surprised.
As Dan DiDio had said before, and he's no longer a part of DC, but that they liked to do it every 5 years, whereas Marvel does it as soon as sales start to drop, subscriptions start to go down. They relaunch it with a new number one, as we just saw with Black Cat. So do not be surprised if whatever happens after Enter the Phoenix, and it's not going to be called Rebirth, but if we are not discussing this story again in half a year, do not be shocked.
Flipping on over to the DC side of comic books, writer Ram V from Justice League Dark and artist Mike Perkins from Captain America will re-team up for a Swamp Thing ongoing series.
Swamp Thing's previously ongoing series was back in the New 52 with Scott Snyder as the writer. Do you remember who Mike Perkins is?
I do. We've gotten his autograph on some things from MegaCon when we went a few years ago.
He's the one who drew a little Captain America shield on your signed comic and merely signed his name on mine.
Listen, I can't help that I was a cute, skinny woman at that time.
Little Captain America shield, and I'm like, oh, that's actually not bad. He maybe does them pretty often, but I didn't know that that's something that you could just throw on and put as a part of his signature. And I thought that was a cool little thing, but when we were getting a lot more signatures done, I think we ended up having you be more often the one that goes up and gets the signature ever since Mike Perkins drew that little bit on there.
Yeah, it was Mike Perkins, and then who was the other one? Oh, I don't remember. George Perez, who was like busy doing stuff, and he saw me, and he's like, wait, let me sign that. Just hand me your stuff. And like he just stopped what he was doing to sign my stuff.
That's what it was. You always caught attention from the writers or comics because you were...
Again, a cute, skinny woman. What is surprising about this?
Very different from the sea of not skinny men in the sea of signers, including myself. I would get overlooked, but then you would the eyes would be drawn to you.
Yeah, it's my red hair too. That probably helps.
Are you at all interested in the Swamp Thing ongoing?
Potentially. I really liked that Swamp Thing book from a while ago with the rod and the red and the green, and Animal Man was in there. It was very intense, and I did really enjoy that. But in full transparency, I just don't really have time to read books. I don't really make time for comic books anymore because there's just so much else going on. What about you? It's something that you're definitely going to pick up?
I'll give it a couple of issues. Ram V has not blown me away in any of the stuff that I've read, even in the the Swamp Thing special that they came out with a few months ago, he had a story in there, and none of those stories really caught my attention, to be honest with you, but it's always worth giving it at least 2 or 3 issues before I completely sign off on a series, and Swamp Thing is a character that I do like.
It's because you don't chant his name correctly. That's why you don't get into it.
How is it?
Ba-ram-V. Ba-ram-V.
Well, I hope the Rot and Animal Man and all of them do come back in this, but I have a feeling it's going to be his own thing. And Scott Snyder's run was excellent, though. If you ever get the chance to track down those old trade paperbacks, we do highly recommend that run.
Still sticking with DC Comics, Stephanie Phillips, who will be doing Future State Harley Quinn, will continue after that mini in a new Harley Quinn ongoing series in March, joined by artist Riley Rossmo, who did Robin King.
Riley is an artist that I've seen it right off the bat with Robin King, and he's done many comics in the past, especially independent work. Regular comic subs seem to be turned off by his artwork. Anything that is too overly stylized, for whatever reason, readers do not gravitate towards. They like the more realistic artwork, and that's why Alex Ross is so huge, especially with subscribers. When they went out and they did it late, but they went back and collected a bunch of those Alex Ross variants that recently came out from Marvel Comics. So that's the one thing that I am a little bit worried about. It's one big reason why I'm assuming Robin King didn't do as well, even though everyone was crazy about Robin King. They wanted to collect his first appearance. They wanted to learn more about him. And then the one-shot came out, and no one wanted to learn more about him. So I don't know what it was, but when you flip through the book, I did see some readers flip through it. They didn't like the artwork, so they ended up ultimately passing on it. I like Riley Rossmo. He had previously done the Shadow Batman crossover, which I really enjoyed. That's when I was really first truly exposed to his artwork. It's a book that I had to get, and I ended up picking it up, and his work was great. I don't know how it's going to go with Harley Quinn. It's not going to be a sexually appealing Harley Quinn, and he's done that Harley from the final issue of 75 was the final one, and there was a piece in there that he drew. So I think it's going to be a more cartoony, over-the-top take on the character, which I think will work for Harley, but it will alienate some of those fans.
I am always nervous anytime anybody starts to write Harley again or change her up or reinvent her or anything like that, because she's just a character that I really, really enjoy and is so close to my heart. So it's probably a book that I will check out, but I don't know that it's something that I'll really continue with, because you just have to hit that right spot for me to really jump on board.
I think it's pretty safe to say that if you try out Future State Harley Quinn and you end up liking it, then it's a safe bet to go on to the continuation with Stephanie Phillips being the writer. Yes, it's writing and artwork that go hand in hand a lot with comics, but I think you and I especially need that really good story to carry us through. I think for us personally, a good story will carry us through bad art as opposed to amazing art carrying us through a bad story.
Something that cannot have a bad story ever, I don't care what you do, is Godzilla. And IDW and Toho have renewed their Godzilla licensing partnership to cover comic books and more in the coming years.
It had been a while since we had gotten new Godzilla material, and I figured it was a matter of licensing. The old trade paperbacks were still in print, and they do sell pretty consistently for what it is. It's Godzilla, but we do have an announcement from IDW which read, quote, "Beginning in spring 2021, Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, King Ghidorah, and dozens of kaiju will stomp their way across IDW's line of comic books, graphic novels, trade collections, art books, coloring books, journals, tabletop games, and puzzles," end quote.
Spring 2021 will kick off a new Godzilla 5-issue miniseries aimed at middle school readers.
I don't know if middle school readers are your audience for Godzilla. I think trying to aim at a teen-plus crowd will get those younger readers on board, but I guess we're going to see how this goes. I know older readers like myself will probably not be as attracted to this 5-issue miniseries. I'm going to wait for the more teen-plus series that we're going to inevitably get.
You know what other series we're going to get? Godzilla and the Power Rangers, Godzilla and the Ninja Turtles.
I fucking hope so.
I am living for it. I think Godzilla and the Power Rangers would go very well together because they would just jump in like their Zord things and go fighting with him.
Well, another series, and it's one that's very near and dear to Papa Kelly's heart, that is also owned by IDW, Sonic the Hedgehog. Why don't we get a Sonic Godzilla crossover?
I'm done with the show.
Get that going?
It's done. How could you even say that to me?
Dr. Eggman can build a giant robot to go up against Godzilla and Sonic's friends.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
Would it shock you if it happened?
Yes, it would, because those two things do not belong together.
Neither do Power Rangers and Josstice League, but they made it happen.
Listen, that belongs together more than Sonic and anything except for Sonic.
Wow.
I think secretly you all want me to hate this series. I think that's why you keep bringing it up.
Well, something that we all agree on and that we all hate is Josstice League. In an interview with Real Blend, Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins was asked if she had seen the theatrical cut of Justice League as directed by Joey Whedon.
She said, quote, "The Justice League? No, I think that all of us DC directors tossed that out just as much as the fans did. But also, I felt that that version contradicted my first movie in many ways, and this current movie, which I was already in production on. So then, what are you going to do?" I was like, you would have to play ball in both directions in order for that to work. The only thing I have done and have always tried to do is, I knew when Zach was doing Justice League where she sort of ends up. So I always tried, like, I didn't change her suit because I never wanted to. I don't want to contradict his films, you know? But yet, I have my own films, and he's been very supportive of that. And so, I think that Justice League was kind of an outlier. They were trying to turn one thing into kind of another. And so then it becomes, I don't recognize half of these characters. I'm not sure what's going on. End quote.
Wonder Woman 1984 is set to release in theaters and HBO Max on December 25th. I think this was a huge sign of support. I know that the movement, Zack Snyder's Justice League, has been a little bit broken up about how they feel about Patty and her Wonder Woman films because she wasn't as outspoken when we were trying to do the big Release the Snyder Cut campaigns as the other actors were, especially the ones that worked with Zack. And I know some of that could be that she didn't want to risk the future of Wonder Woman because I think she's signed on for one more film and then she's done with Wonder Woman in the DC universe. But now with her coming out and not only putting down Justice League, but also saying positive things about Zack and how they are both respectful of each other's work, I think that speaks volumes. I think it tells us that she's not against, or at least right now, she's not against Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Absolutely. I think you really hit the nail on the head with saying she wasn't super vocal because she was trying to protect what she was building. But now that Zack does have so much support behind him from the studio, she's able to come out and really say, like, no, I didn't see that trash. Like, all of us knew and none of us were about it. And yeah, that's fantastic that she's supporting Zack in that way. And I love that she had the respect for him to be like, no, I trust his vision for this character and tried to, I won't really say fit that mold, but tried to make sure that their visions aligned.
I know one of the things that contributed to the two fandoms kind of separating was that Zack had put up on Vero that his Wonder Woman uses swords, you use a god to kill other gods, and it kind of implied that Wonder Woman wouldn't use swords due to Patty Jenkins, and she did say, her or Gal said in interviews a few months back that they didn't want her using a sword and that she instead uses the lasso and punches and all of that because it was deemed too violent or something. And then Zack put up another image of Wonder Woman using it. So there was like some back and forth there, a disagreement on how violent Wonder Woman can get. But I like that these two have since complemented each other's movies, each other's visions. And especially now that Zack has said that anything from Aquaman forward is a different universe, it's a split in the timeline compared to his universe, the Snyderverse. And I know I've seen in Discord and on chat and among a lot of fans where they're saying, okay, well, when I see Wonder Woman 1984, and in BVS she said that she had walked away from man, so does she forget everything in Wonder Woman 1984? Like, how's there a disconnection there? How's that all going to connect? and I'm just, as I've been saying this whole time too, is don't stress about where these movies fit, because Wonder Woman 84 does not fit into Snyder's vision. Aquaman does not fit in there. Shazam does not fit into that universe. These are films that were made with the knowledge of Zack is no longer a part of this universe, so each one is going to be independent. That was their vision. They're going to try to make them more like the MCU, yet disconnected. So anything after Aquaman forward, do not assume that it connects and is a part of Zack's universe at all. And I think that's cool that we can get both visions. If you just want Zack Snyder's Justice League, if you want that Snyderverse, you have it with Man of Steel up to Zack Snyder's Justice League as it was originally intended.
I think another great point to make within that is if you enjoy a movie, don't nitpick trying to make it fit in with something else. Enjoy it for what it is, right? Say, yes, maybe this doesn't really fit into what came before it, but I still really enjoyed it for these pieces. And don't steal your joy in that way of saying, well, it has to fit.
We are going to be reviewing Wonder Woman 1984 after we see it hopefully in theaters by the end of the month. So in the first week of January, I think, is when we'll have that episode. That'll give everyone a chance to either stream it on HBO Max or to support your local theater to see it. But there is a lot of theatrical talk that we are going to have in this episode, especially with what HBO Max decided to do with their movies next year. But a little bit more light on The Batman, as Joe Manganiello has given us more details on what that film would have been.
Joe said, quote, "It was a really dark story in which Deathstroke was like a shark or a horror movie villain that was dismantling Bruce's life from the inside out. It was this systematic thing. He killed everyone close to Bruce and destroyed his life to try and make him suffer because he felt that Bruce was responsible for something that had happened to him." End quote.
Ben was set to write, direct, star, and produce The Batman. What do you think of this little plot that Joe gave us?
My question was like, why Deathstroke? Why not Hush?
Well, Ben's idea for the film, whatever it may be, it seems like Deathstroke was the one that fit into that the best. I fully trust in whatever Ben wanted to do. And since then, Jay Oliva, who directed the animated adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns Parts 1 and 2, among many other animated and other films, had said that it was the best Batman script he had ever read, and they haven't yet made it public, and we don't know if that's because maybe there's a slight chance that we'll see this as a series or a comic or whatever. But I do like the idea, and this always displays the strength that not only Warner Brothers, but that DC has with their villains, in which they are multifaceted. They can do way more with them. And so far, even on the big screen, we saw this with Joker recently, they can make a sympathetic villain that can tell a good story, that can make the hero stronger because of that story. And Deathstroke seems to be that villain for at least this story of the film. There seems to be a misunderstanding between the two characters, and by the end, there seems to be a resolution where they don't have to kill each other and they find some peace within each other.
I'm hoping the fact that it's not public hopefully means that we will get to see this at some point. I would love for it to continue to be live action. You know, it feels like we're going to go through and we'll talk about it this next year of movies and how they're being released. And maybe that'll help them see things a little differently and say we can have big success, you know, potentially with big movies just on the streaming service. So that's my hope and my wish. I don't know. I would see it maybe coming as an animated before it came as a live action, though.
I didn't put it in the notes, but he did also confirm that post-credit scene in Josstice League, where in that version, they set up the Injustice Gang, and in Justice League 2, they were going to have the villains moving together in probably a Jeff Johns written thing to fight the Justice League. But he confirmed that they ended up using ADR to dub over Lex's lines, and Eisenberg was then given the lines of, why don't we set up a league of our own? And he said originally it set up the Batman film, and that's why they had to rework it because there was no The Batman film at that time. That's when they had gotten rid of Ben's script and he was just going to star in it. And eventually he completely moved on from the DC universe up until recently.
Interesting. So much tea.
A ton more tea to come, but first, for the anime viewers, it was announced on Wednesday that Sony Pictures Entertainment has made a deal with AT&T to purchase the Crunchyroll anime streaming service. So that's a pretty big change to HBO Max.
This now makes Funimation the biggest global distributor of anime.
I know people on Twitter were saying that this does push away anime fans that were using HBO Max as their anime hub. But to be honest with you, especially with the weebs I do know, they weren't using HBO Max for anime. They were using Funimation and full service Crunchyroll on their own dedicated apps, and not at all for HBO, because on HBO Max you had selections of anime. It wasn't like a full thing.
Right.
It was a little hub on it. And now that they're moving away from it, I honestly don't think it's going to impact their subscriber numbers all that much. It's going to be very few, because if you look at the overall subscribers that Crunchyroll had, which I think was 3 million from the articles that I was seeing on this buyout, how many of those were going to HBO Max as opposed to Crunchyroll? There's no difference there. I don't think it's going to really impact them.
Right. No, I definitely agree. And beyond that, let's say you lose that portion of it, there's still so many more things available on HBO Max that you're going to stick around for.
Scott from Lazy Gaming Guys and some of the other guys on that Discord were saying that Sony does not handle anime well, and they were not happy about this news. They have a heavy hand when it comes to censorship, and they will not bring certain anime to the US in an attempt to kind of be more, I guess, family friendly or censorship friendly. And that's something that, especially anime viewers, they want the original works as they were, untouched or dubbed, whatever it may be. And Sony doesn't do that. So they're seeing this as, this is a terrible thing, because now them as the largest distributor, they're going to have to, unfortunately, most likely pirate their chosen anime. And these are their words, instead of being able to see it and enjoy them uncensored on Funimation.
They would be smart to have a different section, and I guess they would say that they couldn't really monitor it, but like a dedicated 18 plus section. And, you know, depending on your subscriber settings or whatever, you were able to access that section and get all of it there. I definitely think that would be better for them, you know, able to get them more viewers because of that. But at the end of the day, it's what they choose to do. And, you know, they're probably like, nobody really watches this anyway.
I saw that AT&T was looking to sell Crunchyroll for a little bit now, and they had acquired it. They had built it up a little, and after the AT&T acquisition, this is all a part of these changes, right? Where they're cutting down on the DC writers, and that's just one portion of it. Every single department is going to get cut down, as we saw with all of the layoffs. And I think Crunchyroll, while there is a future in viewership, especially with anime, a lot of teens come in, they ask for manga, they ask for anime product. That is a future of revenue that they could be getting, but as of this time, that's not a long-term plan for them.
This wasn't the only thing to disrupt the streaming service world. Something that's also not a long-term plan. Warner Brothers Pictures announced a hybrid model for its theatrical slate in 2021.
Supposedly, this is a 1-year plan, but I call it a trial period, because if it ends up being very successful for them, this will be a thing they use moving forward, and I fully think that is their intention. While Warner will continue to release movies theatrically, they will be making films available to stream simultaneously from day one on HBO Max for a 1-month release window. They announced this one day after we had recorded our speculation and thoughts over Godzilla vs. Kong, and is it going to HBO Max or is it going to Netflix? And then we looked like banana heads that Sunday because of this news, but that's all right. That was the disclaimer. Now we can actually talk about it.
Did I say it was going to Netflix? No.
No, you didn't?
See?
I don't think I did either, though.
I'm not a banana head then. Call me a banana head. All these films will be available on 4K, Ultra HD, and HDR on HBO Max, and write to book about it.
Warner Brothers Pictures Group 2021 has an expected release slate that includes The Little Things, Judas and the Black Messiah, Tom and Jerry, Godzilla vs. Kong, Mortal Kombat, Those Who Wish Me Dead, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, In the Heights, Space Jam: A New Legacy, The Suicide Squad, Reminiscence, Malignant, Dune, The Many Saints of Newark, King Richard, Cry Macho, and The Matrix 4.
We do have a quote here from Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar, who said, quote, "We are planning to bring consumers 17 remarkable movies throughout the year, giving them the choice and the power to decide how they want to enjoy these films. Our content is extremely valuable unless it's sitting on a shelf, not being seen by anyone. We believe this approach serves our fans, supports exhibitors and filmmakers, and enhances the HBO Max experience. creating value for all, end quote.
According to The Hollywood Reporter, Warner Brothers will agree to better ticket sale terms with theaters to avoid business boycotts, which they are already doing for Wonder Woman 1984. There is a better percentage that is going for them on that film.
Before we move forward, out of all these 17 listed, which one are you most excited for besides Godzilla vs. Kong?
Honestly, it's Dune right now. If you're going to exclude Godzilla vs. Kong, I haven't seen the original film yet. I've seen bits and pieces. I have not read the books, which Spoon Sandwich let me know is considered to be some of the best sci-fi of all time. But Denis Villeneuve is an amazing director. I will watch anything that he makes. What about you?
Not The Conjuring.
Right. Yep, we had said that last week. Too scary for you?
All of these sound scary, honestly. Matrix sounds cool, but I was never really into the first three. Obviously not Suicide Squad. Maybe Space Jam. Are we bringing back Michael Jordan?
No, it's shit, who's the big one, right? I don't follow basketball.
I know even less basketball than you do, so I don't know why you're asking me.
We know next to little, too, about Mortal Kombat, but supposedly in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see a teaser or something. That one I have a lot of hopes for, and I did, even as a kid, I liked the 90s Mortal Kombat, and including the sequel. Going back on them now, it's fine, too. It's a fine video game movie, and I'm excited to see what they're able to do in 2021.
I will say about this, I do think having it available for a month is a little too long because some theaters only really carry movies for a month. So if I were to alter anything about this, I would only let them have it for maybe 10 days is what I would say.
Wow.
10 days only. Yeah, I'd make it really small, right? 10 days only, catch this movie. People are going to watch it and then they're going to say, hey, I want to see this again. Let me go into theaters because that's where it's available right now.
The fact that it's a month, as you just mentioned, tells me that their intentions are to strengthen the streaming service over servicing the theaters. Honestly, I don't think there was a right or wrong move to this. This is the solution to, we have these movies coming out. We don't know what theaters or if theaters are going to be open in half a year. We're losing interest in these films, as we were seeing with Wonder Woman 1984. How do we release them now while not charging people $30 for each one, while also strengthening our streaming platform? I honestly can't think of a better way to carry out this plan than what they ended up doing. Charging $30 was not the answer. That's something that I remember I was very against. You had mentioned that it would have been better for families, and maybe I don't think it worked out for Disney Plus, to be honest with you. I don't think they're going to be moving forward with that model.
Not after HBO did this, they won't.
Well, especially now, there's definitely some pressure from this big streaming service, which is the fastest growing one. And now Disney Plus has to make the decisions. And this is why competition is amazing. We end up winning.
This does create some new challenges for HBO, though, like you just mentioned, negotiating ticket sales and what that looks like for these different directors and actors. The New York Times recently revealed that after tense negotiations, Gal Gadot and Patty Jenkins were each given over $10 million to accommodate the ticket sale pay agreement that was done before the 2020 shutdown.
That was another tough one, because if you had agreed to those ticket sale bumps or that revenue, and then COVID happens and there are no theaters, no one would have guessed that that was going to be an issue. And you as Warner Brothers, if you go, oh, well, sorry, that's out of our control, now you're open to getting sued. Yes, even though you agreed to those terms, there's definitely grounds there to get sued for that. And after this was all made known, several agencies representing Denzel Washington, Margot Robbie, Keanu Reeves, Will Smith, and more inquired as to why they weren't receiving similar deals like Gal and Patty for the 2021 HBO Max streaming announcements.
Everybody got their panties in a twist, and talks of Warner Brothers boycott began circulating inside the Directors Guild of America, according to the New York Times article.
Michael Nathanson, a founder of the Moffett-Nathanson media research firm, said in a phone interview, quote, "For the longest time, Warner Brothers has been known as the best home for talent, and that has been a significant competitive advantage. With this move, they alienated the very talent they have worked so hard to attract. These aren't engineers you can't just replace," end quote.
According to Variety, Warner Brothers is formulating a plan to compensate lead actors and directors impacted by the studio's HBO Max streaming plans.
I think that is the only move you can make also to help get rid of the boycotts or the potential lawsuits. Supposedly some actors are still moving forward with legal cases against Warner Brothers for this. Legendary Pictures, remember we had just talked about last week on how Warner Brothers blocked the deal from Netflix is one that ended up being where Legendary wanted to take the deal for $250 million or whatever from Netflix for Godzilla vs. Kong. Warner Brothers, being that they had the control over all of that, ended up blocking that and said, no, we're going to move this on HBO Max instead. So Legendary, who paid for the film, is now like, what the hell? So that's not cool with us because we wanted to take that deal. So there was a lot of, this was a very aggressive move from Warner Brothers, and because of that, there were many people that were not happy with the deal. But I personally think that this is the kind of aggressiveness that you need during this competitive time. These are the moves that are going to make the difference in 5-10 years. That's what's going to make you a leading platform. You solve the problems now, which they have been. What are the issues? The back end pay, and you move forward from there.
Absolutely. The actors that are, and listen, I don't know what kind of conversations they've had, but my thing is Wonder Woman is just about to come out. Your movie's a little bit farther down the pipeline. Just because they aren't coming to you yet or now or right this second about that kind of deal doesn't mean that they won't. So the people like, oh, they're alienating us. Like, give them a second. This is a very, very new space. But to your point, talking about playing the long game, right? You have a year of maybe you don't make as much, but it's better than making nothing. And you continue to stay relevant, and then you don't potentially go bankrupt or go under because you didn't release anything and didn't make any money off of those movies that you've invested so much in already.
Christopher Nolan had some very strong words also against Warner Brothers and HBO Max. He straight up called it the worst streaming service.
Ooh.
And said that it wasn't his idea to release Tenet in September. I want to know what the true story is then, because I thought Nolan had been pressuring Warner Brothers, do not release this on video on demand, release it in theaters only. But it sounds like the thing was Warner Brothers was like, well, we need to release it this year. We don't need to keep waiting more months because people are going to lose interest in Tenet. So that's when they said, okay, we'll release it in theaters now. It made the box office that it did, which wasn't a whole lot. And now Nolan is saying, well, it wasn't my idea to release it in September. Yes, I wanted it in theaters, but maybe we should have waited longer until theaters were fully open. And Nolan, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to repair that relationship. But people on Twitter saying things like, well, what studio is going to pick up Nolan after he breaks up with Warner Media? And someone quickly responded with, no other studio is going to give him the millions that Warner does to make his independent, non-franchise properties.
That's 100% true. Yeah, I would love to really hear the background and what really happened. Because it could have been as simple as, oh, hey, we made this compromise. Okay, we're going to release your film in theaters, but it's going to be now because it's only going to get worse before it gets better. You want to, to Nolan's point, if you want to wait until theaters are completely open, so you're talking next July.
Maybe.
Maybe after you've put this much money into a movie, again, you're not going to wait that long. You're not going to say, okay, let's see when everything's completely better and release it then, because less people are going to be interested. You're going to have a lot of competition in that space, and so you're going to release it when you can to make whatever money you can off of it.
After they had made this announcement, and apparently some other studios were only giving a 30-minute notice before they made that public announcement, that's when the stocks dropped like crazy for theaters like AMC, and that told a lot of people that theaters are going to be hurting even more after this announcement. And this is where that conversation began of, look, streaming is the future. Theaters are no longer going to be a part of the movie experience. HBO is just they're being innovative and moving ahead and playing ahead to what the reality of the market is. And that's when filmmakers, whether their intentions are, I need to get my ticket sale pay, or they really have the affinity of the movie theater as you and I do, they're saying, no, people are still going to the theaters even during the shutdown, so we need to support them. And that conversation is very sticky because I am definitely a moviegoer. You and I love going into the theaters, but I don't think we have a good grasp on what the general audience thinks. I would be really curious to know what families or people in their 40s and 50s think, and probably younger up-and-coming generations. Do they still like going to the theater, or are they perfectly okay with streaming something on their phone or on their television?
I think, and I don't know, just with the age of convenience, I think standard people would rather stream these movies at home. You think about families, how challenging it is for us to get out to the theaters. Well, now you don't have to pay for a babysitter. You don't have to do all these other things, right? You tuck your kids into bed and then you can turn on that movie. My parents would much rather stream than go out to theaters. They do if it's something they really want to see, but they maybe go once, twice a year to go and see something in theaters under normal circumstances. Again, they would just rather watch it at home. So what I could really foresee happening is just very few movie theaters left. So if you think back to drive-in theaters, right? There were few, and then it almost felt they were gone, and they're kind of starting to make a comeback now. People do want that experience again, but I could definitely see much fewer theaters available, but they're not going to disappear completely.
You had mentioned that your parents would go once or twice a year. That was the issue before the shutdown of cinema in general, where people were saying, okay, we're just getting franchises, we're just getting sequels and prequels and remakes. And this is because when people go to the theaters, at least at during that time, the highest ranking box office movies tended to be franchise films, something that was familiar to people. Or in other words, something that was an event, something that you had to go out to theaters to see, not something that you could catch later on Netflix or rent on Vudu. And that seemed to have been the market. I think you and I and other moviegoers were, that we'll go see anything in theaters. We're the minority when it comes to this. I think you're right. I think it is that people will go see event films, and that is kind of it. I know at least when I was growing up, we used to go to the theaters a lot more often. And it does seem like people are going just for those trending films. I don't even know what to call them, but I think event films is the best name for them.
Yeah, I think standard moviegoers, talking about going to the theaters much more often when we were younger. When I was a teenager, that was something that, I really did. Me and my friends, we would go to the mall. We were allowed to go by ourselves if we were going to a movie. And then, it was probably almost every weekend that we would find something and save your money. And it was $8 for a ticket with your student ID. And you would go and you would see and you'd sneak your candy in. And for us, that was really exciting. But do I see teens doing that now? Do I think that that's something? No, I'm trying to think of, and granted, we go in the middle of the afternoon, so they're probably in school. But from what I know, I don't hear the teens that I work with talking about wanting to go to movies or, hey, did you catch the latest movie or anything like that. So I think it's just a different generation, a different time.
I had also tweeted that you called it that they needed to end the free trial, 7-day trial, right before Wonder Woman 1984. And you're right, they did.
Of course
HBO Max
they did.
literally said what you said they should do, and that is, okay, you want to watch 1984, that's at least a month that you have to pay for HBO Max, which is still a great deal. It's $15, or if you get the year, it's $12.99 a month. So it's less than that $30 rental that Disney Plus was trying to do. It's less than going to the theaters. It's still a great deal, but yeah, they're not stupid. That was a smart thing to do. End the free trial before you roll out these 2021 releases.
For sure, and I don't think any time this year you're going to see a free trial from HBO Max at all. It's not going to happen.
All of 2021
all
as well?
All of 2021, you are not going to see, especially with all these movies coming out. You're thinking 17 movies as more than one a month. There would be, and if they're up for a month, right, there's no stage in here at all where you could offer that. Do I think you're going to have some people who are going to sign up or I mean, people sharing accounts, right? Always happens, but sign up for a month and cancel, and then sign up for the next month when a movie comes out they like and then cancel. Yeah, that's definitely going to happen. But I think for the most part, you're going to get a lot of people who are going to forget or stay on or be loyal for this next year and say, this is a really great service. Let me stay on.
I did get a survey from Warner Brothers, part of the A-list program, of, okay, these movies you know are coming to HBO Max. Do you intend to watch them? Yes. Now that you know they're on streaming, do you intend to go into theaters and watch them? And so they're already polling and seeing how this is affecting whether or not someone decides to go to the theater. I talked to a subscriber this past Wednesday about the HBO Max plans, and he was saying some of these movies, yes, I will absolutely see on the big screen, like Godzilla, like Wonder Woman 1984. But some of the ones that I was more on the fence on that I would normally maybe go to theaters, I will definitely now default to, I'll just stream it on HBO Max and save myself the trip. Does this encourage you to maybe think, you know what, why don't we just stream it instead of going out to theaters and seeing it for any of these movies?
I don't think so, because the ones that I'm really excited for, we're still going to go see in movies. Like you said, the Wonder Woman, the Godzilla vs. Kong. I think it will give me the opportunity to see more of their movies that I wouldn't have. So, for example, Tom and Jerry is not something that I'm going to go and pay to see in a movie theater. Space Jam, I would probably not go to pay to see in a theater. But am I going to watch it at home? Sure, if it's available. And let me tell you, if there's a movie that we watch and we stream and I really like it and I want to see it again, then I'm going to make the conscious decision to find time to go to see it in the movie theater and support it that way and watch it on the big screen and get that different experience of having it on that gigantic screen instead of just the one at home.
Or even the opposite. My coworker, he was saying that he wants to go see the movies in theaters and support it that way. But then when he wants to watch it again, he'll then go to HBO Max, because that's when he can rewind it. He can go to the part that he had to get up there in the movie to go to the bathroom, and now he can go, oh, I'll just fast forward on HBO Max and see what I missed. And that's probably a really good idea, and I hadn't thought about that too, because normally you would go back into the theater, see it again if you really liked it, and pay, which is fine. I would still do that even with having HBO Max. I love seeing the movies on the big screen, but that's something too that people will probably end up doing. Last thing I will say about this, and I'm curious to know, Brokehead Core, I put out this call to you. Does this encourage you more to stay at home? It was a movie theater experience, something that you chose that you think you weren't going to do anytime soon due to COVID, or have you been to theaters since the shutdowns? Let us know on Twitter at ReasonsI'mBroke. They had also revealed, the final thing before the Patreon shoutouts, is that they were thinking of changing the name because of subscriber numbers before all of this announcement. And even still, supposedly, they're thinking of changing the name from HBO Max to Warner Max. And that's the one part that I'm like, knock it the fuck off. You're overthinking this. HBO Max is already in people's minds. It's already all over your branding, all over the comic books. On the back of the DC books, all you see is HBO Max. Leave the name as is. And I get that it's a corporate thing. Corporately, they're thinking this should be named the bigger thing, Warner Media, not the smaller thing, which is HBO Max. But consumers in the branding of the consumers, it's known at HBO Max. They don't want to then see what Warner Media, they're going to think it's yet another service that they need to sign up for. Don't do that. Keep it at HBO Max. Years down the line, if you really want to change the fucking thing, fine. But get those subscribers first. Land them for several years. Then make those stupid fucking decisions.
Definitely agree. You're going to have to retrain your entire audience by changing that name to Warner Max. I don't even know what Warner Max is. I'm very confused. So leave it as HBO. That's fine.
The best tweet I saw was, all right, guys, I solved it for you. Here's your new name. Warner Max and the Fabulous Emancipation of One HBO.
But that does wrap up our news for the week. Now we can move into our Patreon shoutouts, our thank yous to everyone who makes the show possible.
First shout out this week goes out to Brian on Twitter at MogoBroquette.
In response to Cup's poll between The Mandalorian and Thor, Brian responded with, quote, both are horrible, end quote. And Daniel responded with an approving Pai Mei gif.
Straight out of Kill Bill. Flipping the beard very proudly. I enjoyed that. I was like, I agree. And again, I said this on Twitter and some people got all twisted. I really, aside from that Baby Yoda eating frogs, which I'm like, that thing is a little fucking monster then, because I love frogs, so fuck little Baby Yoda now. I had no issue before, but honestly, Mandalorian's just in the line of fire against Disney Plus. Nothing personal against The Mandalorian, but I just want to make that part clear. But yes, I agree with Brian. Well done.
Our next shout out goes out to Kat on Instagram @_OurNest.
Make sure to follow Kat for gardening photographs. What do they call it? Like micro photos where it's really zoomed up, or is it macro? Macro photographs, especially if you enjoy those, on Instagram. Again, @_OurNest.
And our final shout out this week goes out to Matt on Twitter @Mr. Forklift. You can also find him at typingaboutmovies.com.
Matt retweeted the Kennedy Space Center, quote, "Holidays in Space is back. December 21st through the 30th, the visitor complex will be transformed into a holiday wonderland, snow included. The light and festive holiday decor and beginning at 1 p.m. End quote.
You know, I have lived in Florida my entire life, and I have never been to the Kennedy Space Center.
I was just going to say I am disappointed in myself for not, because that is a destination for people when they come to Florida. Aside from the parks, the Kennedy Space Station, and I think it's people go outside and they see the rockets launching up, and that's something that I haven't done in the years that I've been here. So I think we should make it a thing to actually go there and visit it, and I think it's something that Leo would enjoy too.
Oh yeah, Leo's like obsessed with space right now.
I think he likes everything. He's like, look, everything's new to him still. You know what I mean?
He's like, I've only been here 3 years. This is all fantastic.
Taking it all in. Come on. Tell me more.
So thank you so much, Matt, Kat, and Brian, for your Patreon support.
If you too would like your shout out on Patreon while also supporting our weekly podcast, head on over to patreon.com/thereasonsimBroke. There is also a link in today's episode description. For as little as $1 a month, it goes out to about $0.25 an episode. You too can get your shout out while also supporting our monthly costs.
But of course, our podcast will always be free. Best thing you can do is let somebody know about us. A whole lot of devices showing up as you go through the holiday season. People get that new phone, those new AirPods, whatever they're getting. Great opportunity to tell them about the show and introduce them to something new.
As voted on by you, let's head into our comic book highlight of the week.
Our comic book highlight is Arkhamaniacs. This is written by Art Baltazar and Franco, with art by Art Baltazar.
I love Art and Franco. I listen to their All Yeah podcast, and the Tiny Titans is something that we used to subscribe to, and then the series ended. Superman Family Adventures was excellent, and that one is collected in a trade paperback format. And it seems like their work recently has been straight to their DC Inc., I think is what it's called, or DC Zoom. And they're now original graphic novels as opposed to individual issues, which ended up working out okay. I probably ended up selling less. However, as a graphic novel, it's a forever seller because kids, parents, whatever, will see the cute characters and they will then want to buy it. On top of that, Art Baltazar and Franco, we've met them, or at least I have, several times at conventions. They're incredibly nice. You've met them too. You've seen them. And they're the ones who draw, if you don't know them, if you haven't seen them, I'm sure if I describe it, they draw like the Crayola style DC characters, and you'll see them in the all ages sections. They're amazing couple of guys, and that's why I needed to pick this up. Aside from I enjoy their work, and this is the one that the Brocat Core ended up voting for. What did you think of this origin to their version of the world of Batman?
You know, I don't think it was for me.
You're not a 5-year-old kid?
I'm not a 5-year-old kid. I reading through it, I think it's something that Leo would enjoy. It's very lighthearted. Felt a little disjointed with trying to understand, like, oh, why is Batman friends with these villains, right? And doing all these things. So the whole moral of the story was trying to teach Bruce about imagination.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that kids would really enjoy it. It was a fast read, but at the end of the day, there wasn't really that heart in it for me that we did get from things like Lil Gotham, right? Those stories were still for kids, but there was always something that I could take away from it too. And I just didn't get that in this book.
I fully understand that. And compared to maybe their Superman stories, which, as you mentioned, did have a little more to them, I think the one part that maybe it was so set up with or worried about is explaining each villain and how it fits into this kid universe, how Bruce's parents they're not dead in this because it is for kids. But I thought the way that they explained away, like, okay, well, he can still have his parents, but this is how he becomes Batman, and this is how he still has the Joker. This is probably, I mean, it wasn't the neatest way to do it, but it's a Tiny Titans way too, and I think it succeeded in that way. it lightened up Batman as much as you can without fully stomping on the lore that is Batman. And they still retained a lot of it. I was still creeped out by the Joker bringing Bruce onto the Arkham apartments and trying to get him to use his imaginations. And the way that they wrote him, and he's supposed to be like a friend more than anything, like a clown trying to make him happy and trying to let him see and be a kid. And I get that part of it, but because I know who the Joker is, it was just creepy to me.
Just uncomfortable, yeah.
Right, but I still loved seeing the different versions of Man-Bat and the version of Clayface and how Bruce is able to play with the villains as opposed to, fight them and them trying to kill him. So I fully believe that the second volume, if they do more, will probably be stronger because it no longer has to worry about the setup. And when that happens, I will be picking it up because I did enjoy it. I did really like this, but yeah, it's not their strongest work. But again, they haven't really done something quite like this where they had to set up and change the villains to make them kid-friendly.
You know what I would have enjoyed more with the villains and being in this apartment is if they were like actual people and then Bruce is turning him into these characters. And yeah, there's that creepy guy who lives down the hall. Oh, he's a scarecrow, right? Because he has birds, so we hear birds in his apartment all day. Or this guy walks funny like a penguin, so he's the penguin, right? Different things like that where it's Bruce who's bringing that about and they're just normal. And that would make it much less creepy for me rather than they're the actual villains that Bruce is just getting along with, little kid Bruce, right? And Alfred's just letting him go inside the house with these people. So that's probably something that I would have made it a little bit stronger and would have really enjoyed seeing.
It's still a book that I intend to carry for all time at the comic shop until it goes out of print. I think Leo will enjoy it once he gets old enough to read some of these. They're very, very fast reads, as you mentioned, big words, very few word bubbles. So it's great for early readers, which is their fully intended audience on these. I loved the different designs to the villains, and I don't know if they have done these before. I know I've seen their Harley Quinn, their Joker, but seeing their Hush was hilarious. Seeing the Man-Bat. And I want to get a Joker and Harley in this version of Arkhamaniacs drawn on a blank cover. We have a Sinestro core that he drew on there, and I want to get way more artwork from them. Darkseid, Lunch Lady Darkseid, I think is what it was. And there's a lot of neat ways to do these characters, and the character designs are so unique that I would even want to see this as like an animated cartoon. With a bunch of maybe little shorts or something, but maybe an animated cartoon that's aimed at younger viewers.
But thank you so much to everyone who voted for the comic this week. Every Wednesday, Daniel does put up a poll on @ReasonsI'mBroke, and you can vote for which book you would like us to read. Don't vote for Sonic.
Depending on how far I get into the reading for this week's books, I may try to put up once again like little mini reviews on Twitter, just a picture of like a panel or something, and then put up my thoughts about it. And if I see some traction on it, if I see some likes or replies or whatever, then I'll keep doing them. But that's a way to still get at least my thoughts out on some of those that maybe didn't get first place on the poll. Batman Black and White, I think, lost by 1 or 2 votes this week, so I think that's the one I'm going to put up first.
But that does wrap up our comic book highlight for the week. Now we can move into the Brocat block. It's what happened with Daniel and I this week.
One pretty major update I put up, which was the final one of this year, at least for our TeePublic store. I got a couple of designs up, and one of them is a 3D version of the Brocat Core logo, which I put together in Photoshop, and that one went up on TeePublic along with another 80s style version of our logo, and it's got the pink grid going back, it's got the palm tree in the back for Florida, and it's got the name of the podcast. So my goal with these two, and that one I commissioned an artist for it. I'll put their name on the TeePublic description. I don't have it with me right now. But the goal is to make designs that aren't just something that you can use to, showcase the show that you may or may not enjoy or to support your show, but something that'll look cool while you wear it as well. And I hope to get more of those out there so that even if someone sees it and they don't know right away, oh, that's the logo of a podcast or whatever, it just looks like a cool design on a shirt. So that's one goal that I want to try to do with the TeePublic storefront moving forward.
The 80s looking one, you know what logo it reminds me of?
A VHS opening?
Well, yes, but yes, there was a restaurant here that was really big in the early 90s, and I don't remember what it was called, but it had kind of that same logo. I'm gonna have to figure out what it was because they all went out of business, but it just looked like a beach when you went inside of it, and they were everywhere, always outside of Joann Fabrics. I don't know why.
Well, that doesn't fill me with confidence on this one.
I like it though. It's really
somehow
cool.
The design goes out of business.
You always do the design goes. You do fantastic jobs with the logos. So thank you for all the hard work that you put into them to give our Brocat Core some really cool things to wear.
I once again don't want to take credit for that particular one, the latest 80s one, but the rest of them I have put together in Photoshop. So I am proud of those, but that 80s one, I definitely needed to commission someone because it was out of my skill range. And while I am learning a little bit more and more with Photoshop, it's a program that I use not too often each week. And I would love to learn it more, but time is so limited, especially as a parent and having a full-time job and doing the podcast as well. But I'm still glad that we're able to do this for this year. And you can find the link at thereasonsimbroke.com. On the drop-down menu, just click on merch and you will find all of the different designs. And it's not just t-shirts. You can get a mug. You can get a mask to wear. If you don't have a stylish mask yet, we've got all the different logos, including the Green Lantern Corps, the Yellow Lanterns, the Brocat Corps, Batman, the Joker, all kinds of stuff up on that TeePublic site.
Anything else interesting happening with you this week? I know you're kind of right in the middle of all the holiday shopping that's going on.
It's steadily growing. We are seeing a little bit more traffic each time, and that it's great, but it's still not yet in the thick of the holiday shopping season. And I have seen more people, and I don't know what's making them, maybe it's the shutdowns that made them more aware of everything, but I've heard more than any other year customers tell me, yes, I can get this online, but I'm trying to buy it local. Do you have this? And it wasn't often that you would hear that. And this year I've heard it so much that I think people have that good intention of wanting to support local businesses. As big as online shopping is, it's nice to see that consumers are still very aware of, they know the damage that is caused by strictly shopping online and not supporting the local jobs around you. Even if it is a Target or if it is a Walmart, those are still local jobs that are going into your local economy. So I do like seeing that the consumers are going there first. Yes, it's not as cheap as getting it online, but they understand that it's overall a better thing for their community.
That's really amazing and something that I've really been focused on and trying to get my parents to do as well, because they really lean into Amazon. So when mom's like, hey, I want to get Leo this, is it on Amazon? I'm like, let's check Target first. And 90% of the time, it's also a Target for about the same price.
That's where you can do like the local pickup or whatever.
Yep, you can do curbside pickup. So you order, they just let you know when it's ready. You can pull up and you can grab it. They ship it. So we have the red card, so it comes for free. So yeah, there's a lot of great resources at probably your local stores that you may not even know about. Target just started doing not free, but grocery delivery. So yeah, you have to pay a little bit more, but you're just paying for the tip for the person who's delivering it to you. So I don't even have to leave my house. I can just pick out my groceries and just say, bring them to me.
Avoiding the heavy traffic, the crowds.
It's insane. Yeah, our Target is in a pretty busy shopping center. So especially now through January, it'll just be ridiculous.
One thing that ended up happening today, and it's a problem with the way Facebook and Instagram, maybe all social media, handles their reporting of posts and accounts and all that, and probably Twitter too, because I've seen people dogpile mass report accounts and get them suspended or banned. And one thing that happened to ours this week is I was sharing the final Snyder Cut roundtables that we ended up doing, like the unofficial one that was supposed to be one of the ones that went up on their channel. We had talked about it last week. And I had shared it on some DC groups and that I'm very active on. And normally it's like, yeah, cool, great. We're all talking. We're sharing awesome stuff. When I shared that video, though, I don't know if a Facebook algorithm flagged it or what happened, or if someone reported it, because anytime I posted something about Ray Fisher and Jeff Johns, there's this crowd that is pro Jeff Johns and anti Ray Fisher It's the same type of people of like Black Lives Matter unless it comes to Ray Fisher because it's a part of the DC universe. So no, he's probably lying and all that stuff. So I've seen them like get mad at me when I post something that's pro Ray Fisher. So it's very possible that they reported the video and it got reported on their false COVID medical reports, false information about COVID and wearing masks. And I'm like, that video has nothing to do with any of that. So either the algorithm clicked on the video and heard something on there that sounded like masks or COVID or something, or most likely someone didn't like the post and reported it and said, false information because it's false against Jeff Johns, but let's just put it on their whatever's available there, which right now Facebook is big on the elections and on COVID. So they just picked one of those. And now our Facebook account had gotten suspended for a day. And I'm like, this is some fucking bullshit. Like, whatever. It's nonsense. And one of the coworkers from the old comic shop that I worked at, she just posted on Facebook that someone on her Instagram had pointed out that another account had posted her artwork without her permission and was selling it on Etsy.
What?
So she contacted that artist and said, hey, that's my artwork. You can't sell it on Etsy. So that person reported her account and said that she was taking her artwork, and Instagram immediately took down the original artist's account and said, hey, if you feel that this was done incorrectly, just contact the person that flagged you. And that by that point, that person had blocked her. So it's such a bullshit system. And instead of them saying, hey, report it to us and we'll make a decision like Google does with YouTube, they just went, you got to settle that with the original person. It's absolute nonsense. So that ended up happening this week. I don't like Facebook. I don't like Instagram, but they're good tools of discovery for the podcast, which is the only reason I'm there, and also good tools of discovery for the comic shop. So if it weren't for those things, I would not have a Facebook. I would probably still have an Instagram, but there's so much that needs to be fixed with that false news and false information algorithm thing that it's such a fucking mess and such a messy year for that bullshit.
Well, my week was a lot more boring, mostly work, my work schedule, because of a lot of things that are getting added to my plate kind of got mixed up. So I worked 6 days last week. And of course, I always work on my day off, too. Something always comes through. I've been working all day today, even though it's supposedly my day off. So I'm a little tired. It's definitely been stressful, but hey, at least school is off my plate, and that is the big thing. So in just a few days, I'll have my virtual commencement where they will say my name and then it'll be official. And it just doesn't even feel real. I'm like, I'm on a break right now. Like, I'll dive back into it because it's just been so much of my life for so long.
Bobby, during his stream, he wanted me to congratulate you
thank you.
For graduating. His wife, Pia, has been going through a similar path with school, too, so he completely relates with that path and that journey. So figured I'd wait to tell you while we were recording so you can say thank you to Bobby and Pia.
Thank you so much, Bobby and Pia. It really means a lot. It's very challenging, so I applaud anybody who, decides to go back at any stage in their life, right? Because it's never easy. But I did officially graduate with a 3.8 GPA, so
nice.
I am very proud of that because 10 years ago, I did not have a 3.8 GPA. So definitely I have come a long way and matured a lot over the last 10 years.
Very, very proud of you. That is amazing. Great accomplishment.
But that's it. That's my whole week.
We did watch a little bit more of Flight Attendant. We started that first episode, and I think we both enjoyed it. We're both hooked on it.
Yeah.
I finished The Queen's Gambit, which I do highly recommend. Very well filmed. We're going to be seeing more of Flight Attendant. I've been watching more of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I found some free episodes of The Jeffersons on YouTube, so I've been watching some of that. Little bits here and there, and even South Park, but we will say for sure recommending Queen's Gambit and recommending Flight Attendant, which is on Netflix and HBO Max, respectively.
We did also get the opportunity to watch Josstice League Dark today. That was the last DC animated and kind of this wave of DC animated that they did. It was rated R because it was edgy.
I think it's called Apocalypse War.
Yes. So, yes. Apocalypse Now.
That would have been a hell of a crossover there between the two. It is the final one, as you said, to the DCAU, which I, for one, am okay with. I did not like the recent run, the last couple, 5 years of DCAU movies, when they were doing direct adaptations, and I think it was under the supervision of Bruce Timm, and Jay Oliver was working on those too, I love that era of DC animated movies, like The Dark Knight Returns Parts 1 and 2, The Killing Joke, Superman, All-Star Superman was awesome. Batman Gotham Knights, Green Lantern Emerald Knights, all of that stuff was so good. And as soon as they got into adapting the New 52 into classic stories, that's when it completely lost me. I did not enjoy that run of just all in continuity movies. It really messed up the death of Superman and the Superman Red Son, even though that was just supposed to be a direct adaptation. They didn't do a good job on it like they did with the other ones. So hopefully this means that there are creative changes since they're ending these. And it did end in a way of like, all right, well, this universe is done. There's going to be a whole new universe after this. Great. I hope those are better. I do thank Scott for giving us the code to be able to watch this. I know that was huge. If you are a Constantine fan, though, this is a movie you must see because he is the main character of this series. It is voiced by Matt Ryan, who is an amazing Constantine from that show on Sci-Fi. Had one season. He has since continued that role in DC's Legends of Tomorrow, which is great. So if you enjoyed all of those, do not miss Justice League Apocalypse War. There are some really cool moments in this. I will say that, and there's some things that are done with the characters that are like, all right, it's the end of the world. It doesn't matter. They can kill off or change characters however they want. And in that sense, it's fun, I guess, to see that. But overall, it's a kind of downer way of ending all of this, but I'm okay with it.
Very much a downer. Don't watch it with your children.
It's definitely tries to be an R-rated film.
It tries very hard. Even some things thrown in there where I'm like, did you really? Like, you could have done this without all of this in it. So, yeah, much darker movie. I enjoyed some pieces of it. I do like Matt Ryan as Constantine. He did a great job. And, of course, getting to see Batman is always a joy.
The one thing I would suggest to them in the future, if they decide to keep Matt Ryan on, is to make him look like Matt Ryan as Constantine.
Right.
Instead, like, I get it, comic book Constantine, they're trying to do that, but it's like, look, we see him as Constantine. So try to just, even if you want to make him like live action, Space Jam it up. Do that moving forward.
That would be amazing. I would watch all those movies. Space Jam it up.
And it wouldn't faze me. I'd be like, okay, yeah, so Constantine's working with Batman. This all looks right to me.
On Apocalypse, clearly. but I want them to Space Jam it and then just make him look really not good. Like there's like a white line around him or something.
like that green screen thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Still real fuzzy like the school projects.
Yeah, very, very, very clearly fuzzy. That's what I want. And I would be okay with it.
It would save on budget.
Yeah,
so
sure would.
More profit.
Or even just like a picture of him that they cut out and he can like South Park it up.
There you go. But I think that does wrap up today's episode. We want to thank the Brocat Corps so much for tuning in every single week, especially during this busy holiday season. I know a lot of podcasts will start taking a break during the new year, right around that era. And in the previous years, we've kept going each week. So huge thanks to those of you who do still make us a part of your week, holiday or not. I've been Guy Daniel.
And I'm Emperor Palp Kelli.
And Brocat Corps. All will be well. Did you enjoy that Harley Quinn, Joker, Suicide Squad meme of Mothra and Godzilla?
Oh my goodness. They don't belong together.
I half made that as a parody, but I'm like, this will do probably best on Tumblr. And on Tumblr, it's doing really well. That's where all the teens are. And they probably legitimately saw this like, yeah, they do belong together. And I'm like, you know what? Great. They don't realize it's a parody, I don't think.
I have so much fun finding GIFs of weird things saying no just to respond to the Twitters that you put out.
Well, something you responded yes to is your Taco Bell blanket.
Yeah.
Talk about that for a bit.
I love my Taco Bell blanket. Hot Topic had this blanket that came out, and it's like, this is this weird looking Taco Bell thing. And I was like, I love Taco Bell. So, yeah, I bought it. It was great. It's like this weird neon green. I do not look great in it, but it's very toasty. I've bought 2 toasty blankets this week. That was one. And then I have a very soft blanket that I'm wrapped up in because Florida is icing over, apparently. I don't know what's going on here. But yes, I do. I want all the Taco Bell merchandise. I really want that Taco Bell onesie of the sauce packet, but I don't look good in any of those colors.
Is there any Taco Bell product that they haven't made yet that you're like, they should make a Taco Bell patterned this?
No, because they've made everything. Taco Bell's made so many things, right? There's blankets, there's socks, they have sweatpants, they have t-shirts, they have, I would wear like a Taco Bell suit jacket.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Do they have face masks yet?
I believe they do. I thought I saw some. You may have to get some. But what I would love, so there was a line a while ago, Her Universe, when it first came out, it was more expensive than it is now. But they had like legitimate suits. But when you open it up, the liner was like the superheroes, the female superheroes inside. Mm-hmm. So I would love that for Taco Bell. Like it looks like a normal suit. And then I open it up and it's like all the Taco Bell logos. Be pretty great.
Only thing missing is the Taco Bell dog. We need to bring him back.
Aw, little Taco Bell dog.
I don't care that it's 2020. He's the only thing that is resistant to 2020.
He's in a lot of GIFs. If you look on Twitter and you search Taco Bell, he's everywhere.
He's still there?
Yeah.
All right.
He's still there.
Will Taco Bell officially use him again?
They will never use him again.
Do it for nostalgia.
They're not going to.
I'm telling you it's not racist, and I'm the one that's supposed to be offended by it.
Yeah, you're not the only one that's supposed to be offended by it.
How about this? Anyone that doesn't use the term Latinx can decide if it's offensive or not.
Okay.